Hey guys, so in today's video, I'll be showing you how to make a bee hotel using free material, how to maintain your bee hotel, type of insects you'll find in a bee hotel, and the pros and cons of a bee hotel. Alright, let's get right into the video. Alright, so we're going to start off with getting the free material. So the way we're going to get the free materials, if you go to any new house that's getting built, they actually have a trash pile, as you can see here. And you could get any pieces of wood either in the trash pile or around the trash pile. That's all discarded wood that they can't use to build the house anymore, so it's okay if you get it. Don't worry, you won't get in trouble for it. As you can see, this is me walking around. I'm trying to get some wood. And I actually see a few pieces. These are some decent looking pieces. Might actually use these for the build. And then you see me get this really big piece. See, this piece is actually really nice. And as you can see, you see how there's nails there? That's actually really good. We want those, because now we don't have to buy nails or screws either. We could just use the ones that come with the wood. So now for the next part of our bee hotel, we have this right here. See this top section? Well, originally, in a lot of videos, you actually see them drilling holes in these pieces of wood. But the branches I was cutting off of from a dead tree in my backyard, as you can see, it was still a small tree, but it was already dead, so I thought I would, make use of a dead tree. But instead I've decided that this is actually be for like other random bugs like spiders, beetles, anything that would like to live here. So that way any of like spider wasp or other types of bees and wasps that need insects to feed their larvae that are going to be in these holes, so that way there's more bees and more wasps have an easier place to find food. So that's what we're going to be doing for this top section. Of course, you don't have to actually add, but this is the way I'm going to show how to build the bee hotel. So yeah, so as you can see, then I start moving on, finding a nice sized branch, and I start cutting at it. And then once we finish cutting that, as you can see, it's a good branch. It has a little bit of sticks that will break off to also use. And then I go to another branch, start cutting that one off. And then, as you can see with this one actually has a lot of branches, little small ones. That's good. So that way we could break all those off and use it also to fill in more of the space in the bee hotel. Now moving on to the garage, we're going to start using the thick piece of wood that we got. As you can see, it's almost 3.5 inches, which is technically a 4x4 piece of wood, but nowadays everything is labeled like a number, but it's actually smaller than that number just to save on wood. But yeah, so we measure this, it's almost 3.5 inches. In case our planks, need to be cut from the sides just to fit that. But then, as you can see, once I lay the plank on top, it actually does fit very well. So we don't have to do that. Alright, so now we're going to cut this middle inside part. The way we're going to do that is, luckily, since this outside part, the planks are actually the exact same width as the inside part, we're just going to cut the inside part the same width as the outside part. That way it just slides in, fits nice and tight. So as you can see, I start measuring it, I mark it, and then if you don't have a measuring tape or a ruler, something even in flat, you could actually use one of the planks as a straight edge just to mark that line. And then now that we have that line marked, we're going to go ahead, take it, it's ready to get cut. Now before we do start cutting, I do want to mention a few things. Remember, safety first. Throughout this whole video, I am always wearing eye protection. So while doing any of this, even if you're not using power tools, even if you're just using regular hand tools like the saws you saw me use on the branches, you could also use this to cut the planks and the big piece of wood, the 4x4. It works perfectly fine. Might take a bit longer, but it still works the same as a power tool. Remember, safety first. I'm always wearing safety glasses and gloves. You don't have to wear gloves. It's recommended, but definitely you have to wear the eye protection. Alright? Now back to the video. Alright, so now we're at the saw. This is where it gets nice. 3, 2, 1. Now we're at the saw. Always remember, don't put your hands under the blade saw unless the cover is on it, and don't press to spin the saw unless you know you're ready to cut something and nothing is in the way of the saw. So now as you see, we're cutting through this wood nice and easy. So we got that piece ready. Time to go measure the other piece and get ready to cut that. Alright, so now that we have the thick piece cut that we're going to mainly use for our holes for the bees, now we're going to start cutting the outside housing for the bee hotel. We're going to use the planks for that. As you can see, it was good that we got the ones with the nails in it and screws. So we're going to be using those screws. They came with different size screws, so we're just going to take those out. I already took them out, that's why it doesn't show it, but I took those out. Here are the screws that we're going to be using. Now we're just going to measure this piece of wood. We're going to stack the other piece on top of it. That way we know how tall to make it, since we're going to be having that part for the insects for food for the bees, for their offspring. So yeah, so now we're going to measure it, same as last time. Mark that down, make a rough line. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now time to cut. So we just cut the first side piece. Now we're going to do the stack method. So basically you're going to grab the piece you just cut, which is the length you want, put it on top of the long piece of wood that you still have from the same piece that you just cut from, and then you're going to cut from the end of that piece, from the edge of the plank, that we have two identical pieces without having to measure and redraw again. Now that we have our two identical pieces, we go back to the table, line them up to the sides. Now it's time to cut the bottom. We get the remaining plank, put that up, measure it, mark the line across with the measuring tape. Doesn't have to be perfect, you know. Just get a good line on there. Then we take it to get cut. It gets cut. Then once again, we do the good old stack cutting method. Put the other piece on top. That's ready to cut the other. Now we cut the bottom, time to cut the top. Alright, so as you can see, now we have the top and bottom part of the bee hotel. Then we're going to move back over to the table. And we're going to line everything up. As you can see, it all fits nicely together. Now we need to make the back side. That way everything stays in place and it holds the middle part where all the holes are going to be drilled into. Now we're going to lay it on top. We're just going to simply mark it at the other end. Now we're going to make the line, and then now we take it to get cut. For this shot, I decided to make it nice and close and zoomed in. Hope you guys enjoy. Alright, now that we have all the pieces that we need for the bee hotel cut, now it's time to put everything together, make sure it all fits. As you can see, it does. It's looking pretty good. Now we need the sticks that are going to go inside for the food. For the sticks, we're just going to put it in, and you can see the sidewalls. We're going to move that up so we get the right height. We're going to measure it real quick. We're going to spin the stick around, the Sharpie, easiest way to do it. And then now we're going to take it, get that cut, and use the stacking method again to cut the rest of them. For the rest of this cutting clip, I'm just going to do it real fast. As you can see, pretty satisfying. Now, some of the pieces, you know, it would be easier to just break it instead of cut it. Now that we have everything, I'm just going to put it all together one last time to see how it's going to look. Just going to throw all the pieces in there. As you can see, looking pretty good. Alright, now it's time to actually use the nails that we got and screws to finish the build. Alright, so the way we're going to start, we're going to get a top and a bottom piece, line it up well, the drill. I'm going to drill a piling hole. As you can see, you want to line it up so that way it's in the middle. That's important, so the wood doesn't split. And if it does split, that's okay, not a big problem. Now we're going to drill into it, and then we're going to drill a hole on the other side, and then we're going to use these really long screws. You can start by first threading it in, so that way it's not as hard to push through, and so it starts off straight. And then we're just going to use a drill it in, first one down, and then same process for all 4 sides. As you can see, we actually ran out of screws if I had used them on the top part or bottom. So instead, I'm just going to use 2 in each corner, which are the exact same since we already used 4 on the bottom side. It's plenty sturdy anyways. This is just the bottom, you know, so nothing's hanging off of it. It's just holding that bottom piece, and even then it's not holding it because we're actually going to put a screw in the thick piece of wood. That way it actually stays there and can't fall out. Now we're going to put screws in the back part. We're going to use 2 smaller screws that we got. Drill the piling holes. I'm just going to drill those in. As you can see, this screw didn't come out perfectly straight, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now we're just going to get one last screw to hold in the big piece of wood. Drill that piling hole, and screw it actually in. And there we go. Now we're just going to put all the sticks in, you know, move them around. That way they get friction fit in. And then moving on to drilling the holes for the bees. Now for drilling the holes for the bees, you know, there isn't no particular way to do it. I just started, you know, first doing it by like a few sections of lines, drilling it in. And then I really just started going crazy, you know, thought it needed more holes, just kept going. And then to get all the wood dust out, I just started, you know, shaking it above the trash to get all the wood out, all the wood shavings, and now you're pretty much good. Now for how we're actually going to hang it. So I decided to get 2 more little screws in the pile, and then I use paracord. You could really use, sometimes, you know, they have little thin pieces of plastic they use to hold some of the boxes for the house materials there. You could use those, just cut it to size, actually screw it in, and that would work perfectly fine. Or you could use old shoes, like shoelaces, or any string, really anything I've lying around would work. That way we can keep it free. And there you go. So what I did is I just cut it, screwed it together, tied it, and then screwed it back in so that way it could hold it nicely, and just cut the excess off. Now it's time to go hang it. Most of this process was done at night. I'm here in my backyard. Probably would have been better during the day, but that's what I'm working with. So now I hung it up on this palm tree in the middle of my backyard. Now bees have a nice place to live with my bee hotel. Alright, so now it comes to the maintaining part. So the way you want to maintain your bee hotel, some people will actually put straws in the holes and then just cut that straw to length. That way, whenever it's time of season and you know you don't have a lot of bees around anymore, and you know you don't want like all the dead bugs that they keep in there, or the old larvae that maybe didn't hatch, so you pull that out so that way new bees have a clean, nicer home to come to. Same with this part, you could clean this out, you know, put in new twigs, new sticks, you know, different things like that. Also, you don't actually want to keep it in the same spot. You can, but usually keeping it in the same spot actually invites more parasites, since, you know, bee hotels usually you make the population of bees high in a specific area, so then more parasites to bees or wasps will actually infect it, and then eventually there will be more parasitic bees and wasps than bees and wasps, the normal ones. So that's why moving it around like once a year to a different spot, different tree in the yard would be beneficial. Or also just making a completely new one. You know, it's not hard to make these. The material's free, as I showed, so that would be a big way to also help maintain it. Just make a completely new one. Now, of course, you could use the wood for either a different project or for just firewood, you know. That way you're not wasting material and just throwing it away. Just make a new one, maybe different home for this, different thing, you know, maybe as a pot too would be nice. But so when it comes to the different bees that you'll actually find, so you won't actually be finding just, you know, like the typical like honeybees, you know, that you find. You actually will find bees, solitary bees and solitary wasps, you know, in the state of North Carolina. Just to give an example, they have over like 560 species of bees, you know, and only a fraction of those, only a very small percentage of those are actually using bee hotels in that way. Some examples I can give you is like leaf cutting bees. So the way those work is they plant their larvae in the back of the bee hotel, kill an insect with their stinger, because when they sting insects, their stinger doesn't come off, they can actually keep using it. So they'll take that dead bug or paralyzed bug, they'll put it in the hole, get pieces of cut grass and to put in that hole, close it off. That way when the larva grows, it'll eat the bug and then come out as a bee. So that's how that works. Same thing with wasps. There's actually spider killing wasps, which they only target spiders. They do the same thing, put the larva in the back, kill spider, and then close up the hole with some stuff. So that's why I actually made this top part. That way, you know, some other spiders or bugs will be here, so that way it's easier for the wasps or bees to get them. But yeah, so that's my video on, you know, the different species and wasps. You know, the wasps are actually solitary and they're more mild than like, you know, paper wasp or yellow jackets. They're not going to really be that dangerous towards you or maybe animals or kids that you have, because they're more mild, they're tame. You could be near the bee hotel and they won't really bother you. Yeah, so that's just one thing to look out for. You know, the parasitics that will be attacking your bees and wasps. That's why it's good to maintain it. And there's plenty of different types of bees that you'll see, all different colors, you know, filling the holes up with different materials, either dirt, clay, depending on the bees and the wasps, you know, different insects that they'll kill and bring. So it actually is beneficial, you know, in case you're scared of your animals getting, you know, bit by like spiders, poisonous spiders and stuff like that. The wasp will take care of that, like the spider wasp. So that's why bee hotels are good for your backyard, good for them, good for also, you know, seeing more like life and insects in your backyard, more lively, and also you're giving them a home, and bees are good. So that's why you should build a bee hotel. This is my video on that. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next one.